I wasn't sure there was going to be a sparring match agreement that we'll spar for a while. I wasn't sure. I was honest about it. That's why he said it's going to go rounds. I wasn't sure if there was an understanding that, we'll play a little bit and then we'll get a little more and, whatever. So that was part of it.
Acknowledge Jake has had double jaw surgery, 4 plates, 8 screws in his face, and everybody is just kind of breezing past that like it's no big deal. But I'm looking further into this because that's no easy surgery, and I'm starting to ask the question, is this the beginning of the end of Jake Paul's boxing career?
As his brother, I was just shocked. I'm in the hospital with the guy, and he's like, yo, can you make this TikTok? Can you film this for me? He's like laughing and having a good time.
Does not have any agenda against Anthony Joshua, because it feels to me like that fight, I before the fight, I was refusing to accept the principle that this fight could be scripted.
The boxing world erupted after Anthony Joshua's fight with Jake Paul, with some saying Joshua should face consequences for the severe damage inflicted. Experts were shocked as Jake Paul suffered serious injuries, including jaw fractures that required surgery and screws. Critics highlighted the mismatch, saying Joshua's power and aggression exceeded safe limits. The bout left fans and professionals alike stunned, sparking debates on fighter safety and proper matchmaking in high-profile boxing events.
Stay away from the power. You could call it running, and you'll be right. You can also say it's smart for a guy of Jake's size and understanding that AJ is a fucking monster. It's also smart to fight that way. It's not the most aesthetically pleasing. It was not the...
Analysts Brian Campbell and Shaka Majwi provided a detailed breakdown of Jake Paul's fight against Anthony Joshua, focusing on strategy and the physical toll. They noted that Joshua's power caused significant damage, including blows that ultimately required Paul to undergo jaw surgery. To cope, Paul relied heavily on mobility and evasive maneuvers, constantly circling the ring to avoid being trapped against the ropes. While defensive rather than aggressive, this approach allowed him to survive more rounds than expected against such a formidable opponent. Campbell and Majwi emphasized that Paul's movement and ring awareness preserved his stamina and reduced some damage, but Joshua's overwhelming strength still inflicted visible injuries. Their analysis highlighted the importance of defensive planning while also underscoring the risks of mismatched high-stakes bouts.
Or could this be the end for him in terms of what he's doing in the boxing ring?
Listen, so long as people will tune in and so long as Jake Paul is paid by Netflix or any broadcaster to air his fights, we're going to see this continue. And Jake Paul knows his business model, right? Now, this deviated, this AJ fight, which came together kind of last minute after the Tank Davis fight fell apart. But we know Jake Paul's MO here. It's find the most popular guy with the most physical disadvantages for me to fight. And Jake Paul has the benefit that he's turned himself into a villain, or in the pro wrestling circles, a heel. People tune in to watch. We did not tune into this fight to see competitive boxing. Most of us tuned in because we thought, here's Anthony Joshua. Here's a 2-time unified heavyweight champion, a guy who physically just overwhelms Jake Paul. And we're finally going to get what Tyron Woodley and Anderson Silva, Nate Diaz were not physically fit, whether it be through their size, experience, or age, to do, and that is knock out Jake Paul. And so, because I don't really feel like we got that satisfying comeuppance that a lot of people have been waiting for, it kind of gives Jake Paul a little bit of mystique, I'd almost say, to still try and string this along. Now, I don't know in terms, he says he wants to be cruiserweight champion. I'm not quite sure what the competitive road there is, because let's make no mistake, the reason this fight lasted as long as it did is because Jake Paul focused exclusively on being elusive. He did his best, and kudos to him, right? He did a great job of not getting cornered. He was always on the gas until the gas sort of fell out from underneath him. And so I don't quite know, short of leveraging his popularity, how he's going to get to that title shot if he's not actually going to fight, like really fight, an elite boxer. But if he's looking to make money, there's the KSI fight out there, there's the Tommy Fury rematch. There is ways for Jake Paul to
Former UFC champion Michael Bisping reacted strongly to Jake Paul's defeat, describing it as a masterclass in professional boxing. He emphasized how completely outmatched Paul was, highlighting Joshua's precision and power. AJ's combinations and uppercuts left Paul little room to move, exposing weaknesses in his defense and strategy. Bisping noted that Paul's broken jaw and repeated punishment resulted from facing a much bigger, stronger, and more skilled opponent, something Paul had never encountered at this. Damage and domination by Joshua underscored the gap between professional elite fighters and celebrity crossover boxers. Bisping concluded that the fight was a stark lesson in respect, preparation, and skill in the sport.
In my humble opinion, because I'm a big Anthony Joshua fan. Of course, I've been a supporter for the longest time. A rather lackluster, unmotivated Anthony Joshua that didn't look like he was being particularly nasty, right? Yeah, a lot of the time he was out of range, and okay, it is hard to land a shot on someone that's backing up and moving away the whole time. And there was a lot of times where he had him in the corner and he could have thrown a shot. And sometimes he was telegraphing his shots. And anytime he did go in to throw a punch, as I said before, Jake Paul would shoot in and turn it into a wrestling match. And even when he wasn't shooting in, he was clinching a lot. This is boxing, it's not MMA as we know. The referee should have done a much better job of getting in there and separating them much, much faster. As I say, it was the 6th round. I think it was the 4th round he got dropped twice. In the 5th round he got through it. In the 6th round, caught him with the jab, a glancing right hook, he goes down, and that was that. That was all she wrote, right? I did a live, there was about 9,000 people watching at one point. Nobody was particularly enjoying the matchup. Listen, okay? I respect both men. I respect anyone really that steps into the ring, okay? And certainly going up against Anthony Joshua, that was a tall task, okay? You know, metaphorically and figuratively, right? It was a tall task. It was a big job. It was a tough opponent. It was a mismatch, and it was, right? Jake Paul never worried Anthony Joshua once. He never rung his bell. He never caused any damage. He never had him worried. He never did anything. It wasn't a fight. It was a display of how long can Jake Paul last? Can he run away long enough for...
After the blockbuster fight, reports indicated that both Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua earned around $92 million each, making it one of the highest-paying bouts in boxing history, streamed globally on Netflix. However, Joshua's payday faced a massive reduction due to taxes. As a UK resident fighting in the United States, he was subject to both US federal taxes and UK international tax obligations, which could take roughly $66 million from his earnings. This left his actual take-home pay much lower than the headline figure suggested. In contrast, Jake Paul, as a US-based fighter, did not face additional UK taxes, allowing him to retain a larger portion of his earnings despite losing the fight. The situation highlights how taxation can drastically affect high-profile international boxing purses and serves as a reminder that reported earnings often differ from what fighters actually take home.
Has to pay, as you see here, a whopping $43 million. $43 million of his $92 million purse. That means Anthony Joshua was left with $49 million. Right? Now, he also has to pay, I believe, 10% of that to his promoter, Matchroom CEO and promoter Eddie Hearn.
Dominic Engel gave a brutally honest take on Jake Paul's fight. He explained that Paul's strategy was to avoid direct engagement rather than trade blows, making it difficult for Joshua to corner him effectively. Although Paul took a serious right hook, he didn't flinch, showing resilience. Engel noted that Joshua wasn't exerting full intensity in an 8-round bout, as it wasn't necessary to dominate someone at Paul's experience level. He compared this to Tyson Fury's performance against a lesser opponent, emphasizing that elite boxers often perform according to the level of their opposition. When Joshua landed clean shots, Paul felt them, but he managed to survive without significant danger, highlighting both his defensive awareness and the controlled nature of the fight.
Not going to stand and fight, and AJ is not the best at closing people off, and it's hard chasing somebody down who don't want to engage, and then he tagged him every now and again. So
does it look bad on him because there's one right hook that he took was a serious shot, but obviously he didn't flinch from it, but the fact that
not really, because you'll take into consideration that you can get, there won't be, look, there'll be no way. Well, Anthony Joshua thought, if he hits me, there's a possibility he's going to hurt me. I felt a couple of shots early on in the fight. There's no way Jake Paul at the level he's at, and who he's boxed and what he's done, that he's, you know, and it's like AJ, like you say, he's got to have completely gone and be punch drunk for Jake Paul to beat him. After the last fight against Dubois, people think, oh, his jaw's gone there, he can't take a shot. Of course he can take a shot. And it's weighing up the opposition, and he weighed up the opposition, and he's not going to be training like he trained for Usyk or for the big fights. He won't do that because they can't get motivated enough to do it. They'll do enough to do the rounds. What was it, an 8-rounder?
Yeah.
So, same again. So he did enough. He never looked in any trouble. It didn't look great, you know, but Tyson Fury didn't look great against Ngannou, did he? But who did he box after Ngannou?
So Usyk?
Exactly. But you would have never thought, looking at the performance against Ngannou with Tyson, you would never have thought that he put in the performance he did against Usyk.
So you think it's more of a case of you kind of, no matter how good you are and how much you train, if the opposition isn't great, you sometimes
you're going to box at the level of the opponent because the opponent makes you fight at that level.
That's quite a fair.
So, but when AJ did do what he got to and manages to land.
Engel stressed that surviving against a fighter of Joshua's caliber required courage and resilience, reminding viewers of the physical dangers inherent in boxing and proving that hype alone cannot prepare someone for elite competition. Jake Paul's mother shocked the boxing world by threatening Anthony Joshua and promoter Eddie Hearn after her son's fight. She expressed anger at Hearn, saying she wanted to punch him first because he sat smiling while Jake struggled in the ring. She criticized both Joshua and Hearn for not stopping the fight sooner, feeling that her son endured unnecessary punishment. Her outburst highlights the intense emotions and protectiveness surrounding Jake, reflecting real concerns about fighter safety. Fans and analysts noted her reaction as extreme but understandable, given the brutal nature of the fight and the risks Jake faced under Joshua's power.
Punch Eddie Hearn, for instance. Yeah.
Why? Why Eddie Hearn?
Because I don't like his smug face.
You don't like his smug face?
No. Literally thinks he's better than everybody in the world.
Shit-eating grin. I said the exact same. Bro,
Jake's over there, like, you know, struggling, and he's sitting over there smiling like the cat who swallowed the canary. Guess what? Did he fucking get in the ring?
Do you think he was happy with what happened to Jake?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my God.
Now, this is coming from a mother, too, guys. So I just want y'all to understand. This is a mom. But at the end of the day, it's his job to laugh. Because, hell, I was laughing at Jake Paul. I can't even lie. I'm not a big Jake Paul fan. But, you know, part of the process. We got to report on this stuff. But Mama Paul, hella mad.
God, and that's sickening to me. It's sick. I don't like it. Even Anthony Joshua had some class and, you know, apologized to me.
Did he really?
Yeah. He worked his way through the crowd and came up to me and said, Mom, just know it's just boxing.
He said it's the fight